What happened to it? Probably saying that live to all of our viewers at home. There it was. Brilliant. Hey, there we go. Okay. I think we're set. Check one last thing. Everything good. Everything good. All right. Well, I want to welcome everyone. I'll put myself in the center. Hey, there I am. My name is Tony Brewer, and I am the treasurer of the Writers Guild of Bloomington, and along with Joan Hawkins, who is chair of the Writers Guild, produce this spoken word series. We used to do this at Bear's Place, and before that at Players Pub, back when you could walk around outside safely and all that. And so we will get there, we will get back there at some point. But until then, we are continuing on this spoken word series virtually, online as both a Zoom group performance and and going live on Facebook. So we're thrilled that you could join us. Before I go further, I did want to note, in light of the continued devaluation of Black lives, the Writers Guild at Bloomington denounces individual and structural racism. We urge all people to continue the individual and collective work toward diversity, equity, and inclusion. All lives will matter only when Black lives matter. Thank you. A couple of housekeeping announcements before we get started with tonight's event. Currently, all Writers Guild events are, with a few exceptions, June and July are normally our hiatus months anyway. We typically take off June and July and don't do anything. We don't even have our regular monthly meeting. However, this series is going to continue, as I said, online as a Zoom and Facebook Live event. Also wanted to note that our friends at the Monroe County Public Library are happy to be allowing curbside return and pickup. We'll get back to doing events and meeting at the library at some point in the future as well. Be sure to check out their website for details. You can still check things out and return things and all that. And they still are not charging any late fees and all that, which is awesome. One thing we are continuing is the Third Sunday Right workshop. It is continuing virtually on Facebook. Since the Monroe County Public Library remains closed to walk-in patrons for the summer, the Third Sunday Right is back to once a month writing prompts. The organizers have moved from Google Docs to Facebook because some folks were having some trouble with the Google Docs. So prompts will be sent to you by the third Friday of the month so that you can share a piece with the group via their new private Facebook page. If you are interested in joining Third Sunday Right Virtual Edition, contact Shauna Ritter at Shauna, that's SHANA, Shauna747 at gmail.com. Any updates about the Writers Guild, what we're doing, any news about our members, new publications, that sort of thing, check out our website or our pages on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And if you haven't already, definitely sign up and take advantage of our newsletter. Joan Hawkins here has been doing a fantastic job of keeping us together as we continue to shelter alone or whatever. But she's done a great job of gathering information in a time of no in-person events, and she has also been featuring writings by several guild members. So if you wanted opportunity to perhaps showcase your work for people who receive the newsletter, check it out. You can see it by giving us your email address. Go to the website and give us your email address, and you'll get it. Next month, we'll be right here on Wednesday, July 1st for the next installment of our spoken word series on Zoom and Facebook Live. Drop us a note here or through some other means and we'll send you the link. Or you will find that event page for that on Facebook where we will be broadcasting live. Featured poets in July will be Eric Fuhrer, Jennifer Payne, and Jeff Bean, musical guest to be announced. So first up this evening, I want to have a little bit of music from our friends Jill Kelly Koren and Paul Kelly. They go by the Duggan Duo. They are an acoustic folk duo from Madison, Indiana. Jill is also one of our featured readers this evening, and so we'll be hearing from her later. Jill, why don't you take it away?
People, they need friends from the beginning until the end. People, they need touch, can hardly ever get enough. People, they need love, showering down from above. Oh, but I need you, everything I do, just to pull me through. I need you, everything I do, just to pull me through. Daughters, they need fathers. Fathers need daughters and sons. Mothers, they need sisters. Mothers are needed by everyone. Families, they need neighbors. Churches need our souls. Oh, but I need you, everything I do, everywhere I go. I need you, everything I do, everywhere I go. Don't get me wrong now, I can go in on my own. Never really minded all being on. I can work the crowd, or I can go so. Oh, I need you, everything I do, everywhere I go. I need you, everything I do, everywhere I go. Oceans, they need rivers. Rivers, they need the rain. me through. From the beginning until the end. And people they need touch can hardly ever get enough. People they need love showering down from above. Oh, but I need you, everything I do, just to pull me through. I need you, everything I do, just to pull me through. Hey, hey.
All right, thanks so much. That is the Duggan duo. Yeah, you can do one of these. You can clap. People might be able to hear you, maybe not. I've been liking the emoji. You know, you can give a thumbs up, or you get kind of a clapping thing. So we'll have the Duggan duo back a couple more times later on. It is now my pleasure to bring up our first feature. Joe, I really wish we were doing this in person. I've known Joe for a long time. He's my brother from another mother. He's a fantastic poet, and he co-founded the Bloomington Poetry Slam with me forever ago. Like
That was a long time ago. That was a
a
whole
long
lifetime
time ago now.
A lifetime ago.
Yeah, a lifetime ago feels like. So the
But then
official
again,
bio-
January was like a lifetime ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
March feels like a lifetime.
Yeah, like March was a lifetime ago, wasn't it?
Joseph Kerschbaum is a poet and spoken word artist based in Bloomington, Indiana. He has published 7 books of poetry, and his 8th is forthcoming later this year, and 2 spoken word albums. He has been a featured performer at the Bucktown Arts Fest in Chicago, the Ethers Night Festival of the Arts in Indy, as well as Heartland Incantations, a reading series that celebrates Hoosier poets. He has been the captain of the Bloomington Poetry Slam team and competed in the Midwest Poetry Slam League. Joe was 1/4 of the bombastic touring group, the Reservoir Dogwoods.
I know those guys.
I know,
I know those guys.
You do know those guys, yeah. He has been awarded the Greer Foundation Fellowship for Creative Writing from the Bloomington Area Arts Council for completion of his book, Dead Stars Have No Graves, and he has also received an individual artist grant from the Indiana Arts Commission and the National Endowment for the Arts. Please take it away, Joe Kerschbaum.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I've been doing a handful of virtual readings, and I think they're super fun. Like I get to be here at home, but with all of you, all at the same time. So it's the best of all the worlds. And I figured, with everything going on in the world, hey, if we can find a small corner here for a little bit till I'll get together, is worth it. So thanks for having me. So yeah, I'm going to start with a new poem tonight, brand new, hasn't appeared anywhere. And this is just, I drive sometimes up to Chicago for work, and I was driving 37 north about 4 a.m. and I'd seen a car on the other side of the road. They were stopped. I could tell like somebody was out of their car, then they were in front of it, and like kind of like we're looking around, but it was when 37 was all on construction, so I couldn't stop. And let's face it, 4 a.m, I might not. So of course, when I had a chance to sit down, I had to write a poem about it and fill in the story. So this is that. And so this is called How Ghosts Are Born. I have washed blood that is not my own off my hands twice. On the side of the road, darkness thick as an oil spill, narrow tunnel of headlights guides me down this 2-lane state road, lost, unsure where to turn, flash of shadow darts from the shoulder, thuds under the tire. Stopped dead in my path. I am not the one bleeding all over the asphalt. Cracked grill of the car wheezes like an asthma attack. Dark shape on the shore of my high beams, an exposed paw, tail of a tan dog. Under its mouth is a spark. dull name tag. Engraving erased renders the body a John or Jane Doe. Can't see the blood, sticky on my fingers. An apparition, even now, conjures with a similar sensation. Syrup when making pancakes for my daughter. Glue of self-adhesive envelopes. Unexpected drags me back here. Darkness. No houses in sight. Can't go from door to door in the middle of the night to deliver the news. Best case scenario. Dogs owners never travel this stretch of road. Tell themselves, tell their children, animals get lost. Folks take them in and they're happy with their new family. Or is not knowing an injury that never heals, a scar that stays a mystery, cataloged in their collective narrative where everyone swears when the house is quiet, dark, they can still hear scratching at their back porch door years later. All right. Let's see here. So yeah, I do have a new book. I have it here in my hand. It's called Mirror Box. There it is. I'm gonna read a couple from it. So I figured recently we've had some storms around, so I thought I'd read something about storms because I like thunderstorms a lot, but it's like liking something that's like dangerous. So this is called One of Us Has Changed. At the right angle, those incisors glint, poorly concealed weapons under your new hostile snarl. Temperature drops as if we stand in the shadow of an ominous figure who intends us harm. Sky darkens the shade of a bruise. Old excitement reverberates up my spine as the first thunder rolls. Watch you whip yourself into the biggest monster atmosphere can sustain. Locked doors, boarded windows, or useless prayers pleading to a fist in motion. Somewhere you inhale someone's life, spit out their splinters and bones. Hypnotic as an injury, the fascination festers. Try to look away, and the sky lights up again. All right. This next piece, we'll continue on with the natural world. So this other piece, I was writing poems about all these sorts of strange topics, and this is one about fish that live in a cave in Mexico, and after a while they don't have eyes anymore because they don't need them. So this is called The Invention of Light. In the bowels of Mexico, there is a black lake inside a cave where sunlight was extinguished centuries ago. In this lake resides a small colony that swims blind in darkness, evolved beyond sight, now born with two tiny vacancies in their heads. As far as they know, light has never been invented. And the rest of the world does not exist until something snatches one fish out of the current of his life. He would say it was the hand of God if he knew what a hand or a god was. He does not have a name for the scientists either. Falls asleep to the sound of beeping monitors, wakes to an explosion in his skull. Dual detonations where eyes were placed, and everything happens at once, and his heart explodes, and the scientists will never know if this reaction was caused by amazement or terror. Take note. You are not a fish. You do not live in a cave in Mexico, but the longer you exist in shadows, allow your eyes to turn to sinkholes, the harsher the light when it finds you. And this will be my last piece for this set. And this is this poem, this book deals a lot with like changing and life changing and how fast it can change and a number of other things. And this is a poem just about that, about how you can, you know, leave a room and come back a different person, or start a day one way and end it another. And this is called Between Entering and Exiting a Door. Red pasta sauce coagulates on the plates in the sink. Yesterday's unopened mail is an artifact from another time. The shopping list for tonight's now canceled dinner party was written by a stranger in my scratchy handwriting. Small colonies of dust in the corners of the room are not thicker, darker than they were 12 hours ago, but look as if they belong undisturbed in a forgotten tomb. For anyone else, the dusk sun leaking into the house is the same sun that was shining here earlier today. Feels like years since I left the house this morning, where nothing appears different, but everything has changed. All right, that's it for me on this set. Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. We'll hear from Joe. Excuse me. We'll hear from Joe, more from Joe in a little bit.
Great.
Our next featured performer is Jill Kelly Koren. You heard her already as part of the Duggan duo. Jill Kelly Koren is author of Though the Word is a Lie from Dos Madres Press, 2020. I think it's out this year. Or excuse me, I think it's out this month in June, I believe.
Animals, budding and growing in pockets of each otherness. I can achieve COL with the slightest of tasks these days. Making cranberry relish, for instance, pouring those bright berries from their plastic bag into the shining metal of the colander, waiting to catch them in the sink so that I can shower them with a clear water, rinse them clean. Then I will gather their hard spheres into my palm and place them in a Pyrex bowl, green, with little white daisies round the rim, given to me by a friend's mother before she died. She helped me clean my house before I moved into it. She could not stand then, so she sat, rag and dust spray in hand, moving toward every smudge in a slow way, saying, "I wish I were starting all over again." Well, I was impatient to be started already. I take the berries and put them in the bowl, and I lay the blade to them I was making, and grew anxious with the anticipation of the dish. And what better metaphor for a mother's love? Sweet, of course, but also sharp. If you eat too much, your tongue might be burned slightly from that tang. Coarse. There should be texture, the cookbook I finally consulted instructs. Not smooth. But with the crunch of a pecan here, a walnut there. Substance, sustenance. Sweet, but not dessert. A side dish, created to be complementary. The trace of a rind and the memory of the berry's curve. The shapes persist, and yet they mix to make something new. Something that can keep well, the book says. My mother used to save some for me on the years we traveled for our giving of thanks. Tightly lidded, pushed back on a low shelf in the fridge. That bright taste of red berry, waiting. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jill. Thanks, Jill. We'll be hearing from Jill a little bit later. We'll also hear more from the Duggan duo here coming up after Juliana. Just want to let people know we had a little technical difficulty here, and our live stream on Facebook got interrupted. I've tried restarting it a couple of times. Hopefully we'll get going again, but don't fear, no worries. It's all going out into the ether anyway. So our final poet, our final reader, I should say, for this first set. Want to welcome Juliana Crespo. Her work has appeared or is forthcoming in North American Review, Literary Orphans, Flash Fiction Magazine, Mother's Always Right, Mud City Journal, Ruminate, Fiction Southeast, and OVT. She is an English teacher at a high school in Bloomington, Indiana, where she also lives with her family. Please let's welcome Juliana Crespo.
Hi, everyone. So I don't have poems to share with you. Instead, I have flash fiction. So the first couple of pieces that I'm going to read this time around, it's really me trying to honor my Black ancestors. And so just something to keep in mind. It feels especially timely right now. The first piece is called Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. They walked along the road somewhere in Atlanta on a cold and bitter night. The full moon above them like a yellow coin some unforgiving god had tossed far out into the galaxy. In the near distance, Christmas lights decorated storefronts, a startling contrast to dark alleys and streets. The woman with coffee and cream skin was so petite, she might have resembled a child from a distance. But up close, you could see that she was at least in her 30s. She had the gait of a woman who had seen life. She wore a lavender 1970s shift dress, matching shoes, no coat. Her eyes, green like the bottom of a mossy pond, rarely strayed from an invisible point up ahead. The man was tall and largish. He wore a dusty suit and carried a medium-sized briefcase. His skin was startlingly white, his hair so blonde it shone in the dark. His brow was deeply furrowed, the gray eyes beneath them despairing. The sound of laughter and humming engines occasionally reached them but were unacknowledged. The husband and wife were intent on reaching the destination that had been awaiting them since their murder some 50 years before. Indeed, the memory was still very much alive, a root that had imprisoned their souls. Look, here's the white stranger, his eyes maniacal, his hair long and gray, his hand wielding a rifle. Here's him killing their baby girl in her sleep. Now here he is coming after them, chuckling at their screams, his words like hissing bees. You should have known better than to go marrying her, you fool of a man. And you whore woman, you tempted him, didn't you? He shot them in the face, his grin wide and satisfied. Their baby girl was waiting for them on the other side of this world, but they followed the murderer as he traveled across Georgia by car. His rage was a ravenous tornado. He snuck up on families in the night, watched until they'd gone to bed. The husband and wife ushered these confused spirits through with the sweetest words they could manage. Here's the paradise you always deserved. There you go now. Love is plenty here. Eventually, they found out his name was Tom. Children and dogs ran from him, sensing his rabidity. His 2 children, daughters, had long since moved states away, refused to pick up his calls. The police sniffed around his place sometimes, but they always left, satisfied the man wasn't doing much more beyond getting drunk every night. Then one day, only God knows why, the old man shoved a pistol into the back of his throat and pulled the trigger. The husband and wife watched for his soul, and when it didn't come, the wife said he'd never had a soul. Maybe when he was a baby, a child even, but men like that lose their souls when they go bad. They kept going, helping souls through, show them there were 2 ways to leave. The first, through the clouds just as the sun was setting, and the second, through the earth itself, a womb that swallowed them and passed them through to the other side. No matter how many people they helped through, though, the deaths didn't stop, not even when a new century came and went. Here's a young Black woman, her hair long and lustrous, strangled to death because she was born a boy. And here's a man with cheekbones like polished ebony, reaching into his pocket for his phone when a policeman shot him. On and on it went until one day the wife sank to the ground in a forest and rested her cheek against the soil. She spoke, a whisper. This earth, it ain't going anywhere anytime soon, and I'm tired. I want to see our baby girl. Now here they were at the husband's headstone, his parents' only acknowledgement that he'd once lived. They began digging, their fingers soon stained with dirt. After they finished, they looked at the gaping maw, satisfied. The moonlight spilled over the cemetery, soft and insistent. The woman eased open the suitcase, her hands tender as she reached for the skeletal remains of their baby girl. She held her close and sang that sweet melody she'd learned as a little girl herself. Swing low, sweet chariot. Meanwhile, the man picked up the velvet pouch resting at the bottom of the suitcase. He pulled out his wife's bones and arranged them at the foot of the mall while his wife climbed in, baby still cradled against her chest. Soon, the man joined them. They covered themselves with dirt, their hands reaching until Atlanta disappeared, and so did the world with its sometimes beauty and rotten shadows. Tony, I realized that was a bit long. Should I read my second one or should we move on?
That is, had not really been aware of time. So, I think as long as you have like, things to read for the second set, I say continue on.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. My second piece is called Yamanja. And for those of you who don't know, Yamanja is a Brazilian goddess of the sea. I was born in Brazil, so the sort of Brazilian mythology is really important to me. Brazilians celebrate her every year on the first day of the new year, and they go to the ocean and give her offerings, usually flowers. She represents womanhood, fertility, and family. So she's also worshipped in Africa. And when you see statues of Yamanja, she's a very dark, gorgeous goddess. So here it is, Yamanja. Yamanja was born crying. Her mother, being the Milky Way galaxy queen, gave her daughter roller coaster rides through the Milky Way. She made her milkshakes from stardust, and she even took her to visit Moon Mother, her younger sister who had a talent for singing little ones to sleep. All this she did with the hope that her daughter would find joy. But Yamanja wailed even more. She pounded her small fists into the air. She kicked her feet out in front of her, and she scrunched up her face like an angry old man's. Gods who lived millions of light years away could hear her bellows. And sometimes they sent messages via shooting stars to the queen, begging for her to do something, anything. One day, even the queen lost her infinite patience. Quiet, Yamanja, she yelled, the sound reverberating like thunder throughout the universe. She held her daughter up high and shook her, but Yamanja only slipped away from the queen. She tumbled and turned throughout the galaxy, squealing with unfamiliar joy. She'd never known the freedom of not being in her mother's arms. The queen cried for Yamanja to come back, but she'd floated too far away. In fact, she'd nearly reached Earth, the green globe she always thought was a pretty nightlight. Before the queen could stop her, Yamanja had dropped down through the Earth's stratosphere like a comet. Once she reached the ground, she played in the forest for years until she tired. And then she lay down on a bed of moss for a long rest, the moon like one perfect pearl above her. When she awoke, she'd grown into a young woman. She was tall and brown with eyes as gold as the sun. It was then that the green man approached her, a man whose limbs were made of vines. His eyes were the color of rich honey, and his lips were soft as silk. Yamanja didn't question her desire. She simply stepped toward him and brought him into her arms. Months later, when her water broke and flooded the earth, her eyes opened wide with surprise. She settled back against a mountain, knowing she needed to push. The green man arrived just in time to help her birth the first human children. They would make up a small village, and somehow Yamanja would manage to care for all of them, feeding them berries and the fish green man brought home. During the day, they climbed trees and swam in lakes, and in the evenings, they fell asleep learning about the universe and all of its mysteries. Yamanja's words sinking deep into their subconscious. This is the world you are to care for, she told them, just as I have cared for you. When they'd grown, Yamanja whispered to them that she dreamed they were to adventure out into the world. They clung to her and cried, these young adults, but in the end, they traveled in different directions, carrying Yamanja's wisdom with them. After they'd left, Yamanja made love to the green man once more, and then she left too, flying across the ocean she'd created. The ocean wind kissed her cheeks, and the waves leaped after her like playful pets. She traveled to the bottom of the ocean. There, she made her home alongside sea turtles and whales who whispered to her about their dreams in which there were humans or birds. In the evenings, she traveled close to shore. From there, she could see cities growing as tall as the sky, and she felt wonder in her heart. Sometimes she thought she could see her children's descendants, whether it was in the sweep of a man's jaw, the upward curve of a woman's brow, the lift of a child's smile. Then she would dive back into the waves, her next journey already calling to her. Okay, everyone, that's all I have for this round. Thank you for listening.
Awesome. Thanks, Juliana. Next, we are going to hear a little more music from the Duggan Duo. There we go. If we can get them unmuted.
Hello, you're back.
Oh, there you are.
All right, we're gonna start with a song that I wrote for a friend of mine. Kind of like a pep talk. And the message is check in with yourself and check on your strong friends. Make sure you're all okay.
Can you hear us?
How's the volume now? Are we okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay,
Yeah, much better. Much better. Yep.
great. Think about Jane. She stops at the tears when she feels like crying. Think about Jane. There's a smile on her face. Feels like dying. Oh, if you had a pie, they say, oh my, she looks so lovely. Oh, if she only knew that in truth she feels so ugly inside. Think about Jane. She looks for a man who will bring her adventure.
next song is titled One-on-One to Learn More About Her. We'll let you fill in the puzzle. Nothing better than one-on-one. Nothing nicer than a cozy cafe with heart-to-heart conversation. Sipping coffee eye to eye, you know the tears you cry, you know better vision, yeah. But it hurts more and hard, nothing feels better than helping one man. Just by talking some of troubles through helps you get back in that saddle again. 'Cause there's nothing better than one-on-one. Nothing better than a win-win. Nothing better than a sharing some love with a good friend. Nothing like spending time together, just a sitting back and a locking in. Talking soft and a tender tone. Every word is genuine. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Each had a passion and a story to tell, kind of like a good day on Thanksgiving. Her warm heart and her tender ways changed the way some folks were living. One said she saved my world, another said she's a holy woman. A third said she had not an agenda, she just shared her love time and time again. One couple with one little one witnessed her 3 daughters a dancing and a caring. A seed was planted in that couple's mind. Soon another child they were bearing. 'Cause there's nothing better than one-on-one. Nothing better than a win-win. Nothing better than a sharing some love with a good friend. Nothing like spending time together, just a sitting back and a locking in. Talking soft and a tender tone. Every word is genuine. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. One-on-one's kind of like a therapy. It helps you figure out who, what, and when. I like not going for that long ball. The trouble is you strike out every now and then. And life is tricky like a slippery slope. Everything's constantly changing. Self-driving cars going to Mars, who knows? Life's always rearranging, but there's nothing better than one-on-one. Nothing better than a win-win. Nothing better than sharing some love with a good friend. Nothing like spending time together, just a sitting back and a locking in. Talking soft and a tender tone. Every word is genuine. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Nothing better than a cozy cafe with heart-to-heart conversation. sipping coffee out of eyes. You know the tears you cry give you better vision, yeah. Nothing hurts more than a broken heart. Nothing feels better than helping one mend. I like it going for that long, long. Trouble is you strike out now and then. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Tony and the Writers Guild, for having us. Thanks for the poets, Joe and Juliana, for reading with us.
Fantastic, fantastic.
For all those living on Dugan Hollow Hill, that's where we got the name Dugan Hollow. We're both from Dugan Hollow. But so now we're going to do a river song written by Jill Kelly on driving through and passing creeks and rivers.
So my mom died almost 6 years ago, and we all, in our family, we write songs. That's how and poems. So that's what we did, and this one's my song. So Big Blue, and it's a cappella. Big Blue. Big Blue River, Big Blue River, Big Blue River, where are you going? Roll on river, roll on river, roll on river, and wear away stone. Big wide highway, big wide highway, big wide highway, where are you going? Roll on highway, roll on highway, roll on highway, and carry me home. Lewis Creek, Lewis Creek, Lewis Creek, my mother is gone. Flow on water, flow on water, flow on water, and wash away bone. Big Blue River, Big Blue River, Big Blue River, where are you going? Roll on river, roll on river, roll on river, and carry me home. Thank you. Oops. Grab some more. We have one more,
What is it? Oh, J-Boy, I don't have him down.
and then we'll turn you back over to poetry and flash fiction.
This is a song written about 24 years ago because it's about my first grandson. And we were just graduated from college. He just graduated from college. And I was pushing him in a running stroller in the early morning. It's a new day coming and there's a lots to do. It's early to rise and make those dreams come true. Make those dreams come true. You make those dreams come true. You make those dreams come true. You'll be happy, yeah, your whole life. God's shining just for you. He's shining just for you because the good Lord has asked him to. Here we go. Well, it's a rough old world, you know exactly what I mean. You gotta find a balance, baby, somewhere in between, baby, somewhere in between. Baby, somewhere in between. Between the highs and the lows, between the mountaintops and the valley stream. Between the good and the bad, between the whispers and the scream. More time. Way to go, Jay.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Dugans, we'll have a last song from you folks, from both of you a little later on. Thanks to both of you.
Great, thanks.
I want to remind you, this is a Writers Guild at Bloomington live streaming event. We were down a little bit on Facebook, but I think I got things back up and running there. So, we do this once a month on the first Wednesday of the month, and we'll be back July 1st, Wednesday, July 1st, for another installment. So if you want to learn more about the Writers Guild and events that we're doing now and events that we've done in the past in person, and also keep up with news on some of our members, check out our website, give us your email address there, and you'll get our newsletter, which is packed with information. And Joan has been including submissions of work from various guild members in the newsletter. So just to kind of tide us over while we remain apart together. Now for our second round of readers, let's bring back Juliana Crespo.
Hi. Okay, I have a couple more flash fiction pieces for everybody. The first is called Sweetness. And, you know, this is, while I call it fiction, it's definitely influenced by my own grandmother who raised me in Brazil up until I left at the age of 6 to come to America. So it's a very bittersweet and tender piece. My grandmother died when my daughter was just over a year old. So she was somebody that to me just embodies wisdom and love and security. So I hope that comes through. Sweetness. Come a little closer and you'll see that I'm 5 years old again. I'm standing in the middle of a plain, breathing in a world I haven't seen for more than 20 years. This is my grandma's childhood home, where horses canter along dusty roads and stray dogs come up to lick you, and cornfields stretch for miles and miles beneath a sky the color of peace. I am a carioca, child of Rio de Janeiro, but Campos, this place, has always been my secret paradise. I begin to run across the plain and I pick up speed until I'm flying. In the distance, an abandoned house slumps like an old woman. When I near it, I step across the crumbly threshold and gasp. An ancient tree has taken root in the middle of the room, its leaves shaped like hearts. Surrounding the tree are twittering birds and moss and autumn leaves from years past. It's then that I see her, sitting on a carved out seat inside the tree trunk, my grandma. She is a young woman warrior again, beautiful with her Indian cheekbones and her hair trailing across her shoulders like dark feathers. She smiles and reaches out her hands. They are strong, just like I remember them, and they are also the color of earth. I take them and climb onto her lap. Then I pull her arms around me like a blanket of wool. Inside her embrace, I am warm, forever warm. Querida mia, where have you been? She asks. I've been making my way home, and this is one of my stops along the way, I say, not knowing where the words come from. Va nods like she understands. We sit together without speaking, and I seek deeper into her embrace. The time passes quickly, though. Day becomes night as easily as air becomes wind, and the full moon presents itself like a friend. It travels closer and closer until it is just outside the window. When I climb down off Grandma's lap, her eyes fill with tears. She knows something I don't know, but I don't ask her. Instead, I use the hem of my dress to wipe her smooth brown cheeks. Then she nods at me, and I know it's okay to touch the moon. I walk toward it and brush my hands across its shimmering surface. All at once, I am filled with humming light, the energy of blinking fireflies in my blood. I smile and turn toward Grandma. I gesture to the moon and begin to speak, but she's looking at me differently. When I follow her gaze, I see that I am naked. My legs are long and strong, and now I have breasts that would fit in the palms of my hands. I am a woman, I say, surprised. I glance up and see that Grandma has also aged. And so you are, she says, her face marked with lines of time, her hair silver feathers. She is beautiful. But I know what this means, that she will die again. And so I try to cover my breasts and climb into her lap. She laughs and shoos me away, all the while wiping new tears from her eyes. You don't belong on my lap anymore, she says. But I don't want to leave you, I say, kneeling down so that we're at the same level. I grasp her hands and hold them firmly. She sighs and her gaze floats toward the moon. Slowly, I turn my face until I'm looking too. On the surface of the moon, a vintage movie is playing, the colors all soft and dreamy. A long-haired woman smiles while she nurses her baby, who suckles mightily, her amber eyes like glowing stars in the sky. You see why you need to leave, Grandma asks. No, I don't see, I say. So some woman is nursing her child. What does this have to do with anything? It's not just some woman, she says. That's the moment I wake up, and there it is, my mountain belly with its delicate flutters, reminding me that the past, with all its sweetness, is about to recreate itself. Okay, so my next piece is, it's a little provocative, to be honest. I wanted to, it's similar to the piece I just read, Sweetness, but a little bit more in a different direction. I wanted to celebrate my womanhood, and this is what I came up with. It's called Nectar. We get high on the nectar of eternity. We laugh with deep pleasure when our beloved gods, horny men, take us to bed and draw red roses on our bellies with their tongues. We grow our gardens, lush with fruit and vulva flowers. We hum and dance to the beat of eternity, a slow pulsating, the orgasm of life. We stomp love into the ground with our ancient feet, swinging our hips, undulating our bellies like serpents, lifting our breasts to the warmth of the sun, stretching our backs until our punanis brighten red and surrender. After we've made love to the men, after we've tended our gardens, after we've hummed and danced and stomped love into the ground, we retreat into our temples, and there we beckon the velvet abyss. How she comes to us when we call her, how she cradles us in the folds of her sensuousness. We sink until we reach bottom, and then we gather blood into the palms of our hands so we can paint dreams. We paint ourselves too, stretching across space and time to reach the skies and earth and the walls of caves. The lion roars and the dove coos from outside our temple doors. They're singing to us, watching as we make love to ourselves. After days of this, we have the strength and wisdom to come down to you, dear women. We come to you in simple flowing robes of white, our hands before us in a gesture of humility. We come to you in Egyptian dress, holding onto our ankhs, our eyes smudged with black coal. Yet others of us come to you in blue or red velvet, witches of the past, our hair flying behind us. We are magnificent with the knowledge of our womanliness. You have dreamt of this moment, never believing it would happen. And so when we finally arrive, you are resplendent with the deliciousness of your soul, your eyes blazing with passion, your hair glow with diamonds. We take you by the hand and lead you down the labyrinth of your own making. Might it be a labyrinth of moss and feathers, sparkling with the dewdrops of spring? Or might it be a labyrinth of damask curtains, the faces of goddesses painted upon them, golden pillars marking every turn? Do you hear the owls hooting as you take your first steps? Do you smell the lavender and sage? Do you see the stars above in the sky guiding you? Step from the labyrinth and into our world and see that honeyed milk flows from our breasts so that you may suckle and be nourished. Stars alight from our eyes so that you may be filled with light. The moon rests upon our fingertips so that you may see with wisdom. Our sweetness is yours, sweet like berries between your lips. It is yours for the taking if you want it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. That was wonderful. Next, I want to bring Jill Kelly Koren. There you are.
Yeah.
My dad stole my chair. Okay. You're beautiful, Juliana. Thank you for sharing. I'm trying to type in the chat box, but then I was. Okay, I'm going to do 3 poems. They're shorter. 2 of my own and then a cover poem. First one is called Uncle Benny and the Bird. And my Uncle Benny, great guy, and he's a bird, yeah. And he really loves to have lots of people over at his house. So this place I wanted to take a bird. This will only take 30 seconds, he says, as we walk toward the old oak, fat like a silo and thick with lichen. I would be happy to let my attention rest here on this oak, but he walks past. Because you know we like to watch our sunsets, and we were sitting there and there was a robin on that line, the first one above the apple tree. He had an orange breast and there were 2 others. He points to another stretch of wire, but this one, he started singing and it was like he had a microphone, high octave, low octave. He didn't puff up or anything, just sang like no bird I have ever heard. He was more than the James Brown of birds. It was opera. And I thought of you, and I thought, Jill could really make something of this. It lasted for 10 seconds, and I had my cell phone, but that wouldn't even do it justice. It went on and on. I could have called you, but you would have missed it. I can't describe it. Yes, I said, and that is why I write poems. Yes, he said. Yes. On the way home, my daughter asks, what is behind the sun? But I realize she is not asking me because she answers her own question. Rainbows and rainbows, all the rainbows, and sometimes when it rains and the sun is shining, they come out. So I guess that one to me is about trying to explain things you can't explain. And that's I think what poetry does, is trying to give words to the wordless. And I think this poem is about that too. This one is called 1 Year in Wildflowers. And my mother was a big flower gardener, and so that's what you need to know to understand this poem. And it's dated July 22nd, 2015. My mother died in the time of the ironweed. Taking out the compost in her last days, I was surrounded by fierce magentas, too bright almost for the eye. They towered over me, those weeds, and the ones I tried to rip up out of the flower bed right under her window, the ones closest to her bed, the bed Dad moved into the living room so she could be surrounded by life as her own waned, earned their title. They did not want to let go. Finally, I had to bring my own implements, the long-handled and the short, sharp, two-pronged iron tongues to bite the root below the surface and finally fell that iron flower. After she died came the blue mist flowers, Conoclinium celestinum, just as the ironweed turned brown, low and soft, also called blue boneset, good for butterflies. Since then, I have counted not months, but snows, then buds, then blooms, harbinger of spring, spring beauty, trout lily, May apple, wild phlox, wild rose, wild daisy, heliopsis, jewelweed, black-eyed Susan, and now the ironweed is tall again, tight fists of not yet, reaching to the sky, waiting to release fierce points of magenta across the scatter of a green, green field, when the time is right. And now I am going to read one of Kwame Alexander's poems. This is from his book called And Then You Know, and Other Selected Poems. And my heart has been heavy, and I just needed to read some words that could maybe give me something to hold on to. And so this is a book that my sister gave me, and I opened it up, and here's the one that I found. It's called Just Us. Black poems will feed black minds, but who will put chakula into the children's bellies and make them full with nourishment? Black poems will cleanse black souls, but who will give proper attention to women hungry for time and respect? Black poems will love thin sheets of white paper, but who will develop proud black youth? Who will nurture thick black hearts? Who will create strong black families? It must be us, just us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Our third reader, well, it's Joe.
Oh, hello. Fancy meeting you all here again.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this. Jill and Julian, that was amazing. I really, really loved everything you guys are reading. So I'm going to do another new poem. So this is going the other direction out of Bloomington on 40, the death trap that is 46, heading out that way toward Nashville. So this is a poem I wrote about it after I was driving on it. And it is called, and such an odd phenomenon, driving such close quarters with people, and it's called Afterlife. Roads slick as liars' tongues, hands white knuckle the wheel enough to strangle a confession out of it. As if you hold on tight enough, you will maintain control. Push, pull of velocity's influence into, out of sharp curve guardrails can only keep you so safe. Stare through the glass skin of the mechanical animal that carries you inside its belly. Trust fall into its mechanisms that need to operate in perfect unison. You can't identify one organ of this beast. A tiny pinion breaks, and no matter the steel reinforced frame, so do you. Imaginary yellow wall in the middle of the road we agreed to believe in, similar to faith but real world consequences. So much of what protects us isn't really there. Survival is so many unspoken agreements not to do terrible things to each other. Headlights in the distance get closer, turn down their high beams, one line of code that confers. Let's work together to get through this. Pass so close you could touch them, almost feel a future that never was, with a rush of wind against the driver's side window. Split second of your life is in their hands, each of us not swallowing our spoonful of oblivion just then. All right, I'm gonna read a couple more from the book. The book is called Mirror Box. So this is just a poem about just not when you're trying to communicate with significant others or other people in your life and just nothing is coming out right. And it's actually a form poem, couplets, and every second line has to reuse the same word. And this is miss, all different kinds of miss. So this is called Children Lost in Traffic. Thousands of chances in a second missed are talking like a rush hour, a dance of near misses. Fenders grazed like lips, a mangled mess with one small misguided turn of the wheel, a wreck with no impact. Delicate as traffic, our tongues swerve and miss. Turbulence rattling the skull, ears popping like cap guns, a panicked voice saying, "Please take your seat, miss." The wreckage stretches for miles, travelers stranded, everyone missing their connections. This conversation is a million-car pileup. We're all misnomers. The world at a standstill as she waits. Gridlock clocks stop, both hands missing. Joe, your speaking causes accidents. Your words are missing children who aren't missed. All right, I just got two more here. This is also another one from the book, and it's a poem about kind of like, it's called Endless Echoes, and it's kind of strange having these like, in this day and age, like recording so much media and recordings and photos and videos of like people who aren't here anymore in various ways. And this is just about that. And it's called Endless Echoes, Watching Me Watch You. I'm watching you smile. Your laughter familiar as my own, a faded echo like my own. The warm breeze musses your hair, brushes my skin again. I can feel it, even if it's not here. Outside, a blizzard erases the world. My fingers skim the shadows around the television screen like the surface of a black lake. The summer sun shines as if night or winter will never touch my skin again. You, trying to coerce me into the ocean. Warm as bathwater, you say. I hear myself, refusing. My voice sounds unlike me. Why did I not join you that moment? I wanted to capture you, swimming away, eyes closed. Marco, you call. Marco. Polo. I whisper to the empty room. Saying this 1,000 times will not summon you back. The sun shines through the dim glow of the television, emits no warmth. I caught you. I lost you. I turned the video off. Polo. All right. And this is my last one for the evening. And it's funny, I wrote a series of poems about vestigial limbs and things that people don't use anymore, like appendix and other things. And I wrote a whole series of poems about it. The Invention of Light from the last series is from that. And this is another one. And it's about actually dandelions and how they have reproductive systems, but they don't use them because they basically clone themselves in your lawn, basically clones. So I thought that was super interesting. So I started writing a poem about it. And of course, as poems go, none of that appears in the poem. But there are dandelions, but that's how it started. And it's called We Forgive You. crushed under your stained green sneakers, close enough to smell perspiration mixed with gasoline and disappointment. Whirling blades mutilate us, but this does not quell our mob scene. Pull at our stems as if those are our throats, rip our bodies to shreds, but this doesn't kill us. You will have to dig deeper than that. Force-fed poison we are helpless to swallow, our mouths perpetually open, can't eradicate all of us. Those left grow resistant, angry, rage against a world that blows off our soft heads with a gentle breath and makes a wish. Go ahead, smile at the neighbors as they drive by. From the car window, your wave resembles a casual greeting, not an SOS from a sinking ship, dry drowning on the landlocked shore. We know why you are out here in the harsh summer sun, can almost hear your skin burning from here. The inevitable melanoma festers. Get this one thing right, you plead with yourself, without saying anything. Everything else can stay broken. You forget. We are always listening. Remember, we don't care about your needs. We didn't intend to be a metaphor lurking in your lawn in the middle of your life, but here we are. You don't need us to tell you that you are a failure. We do it anyway. And that's a poem about dandelions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Now is the portion in the evening where we bring all of our readers back to do sort of an encore poem or encore flash fiction. So everyone is going to come back and give us a one and done. Sometimes we call this a lightning round, although it's not necessarily a short piece. And I think, so since these are going to be short and you guys all know the order, I will start off by introducing Jill, and then you can all just kind of go in order. So Jill, you are up. And
nope, there you go, you're muted, Jill. There we go.
I was unmuted, but now I'm unmuted again. And I was stuttering, so take two. It's a brand new baby poem, and I wrote it this morning, and Molly Peacock said you're never supposed to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to say this. And so it's rough, but I think it's important, and here you go. It's called You Beautiful, You Sister, You, an anti-racist epithalamion for Aisha. I thought about calling it an elegy, but I thought I want this to be a marriage. So, a commitment. I am writing a poem that is 8 minutes and 46 seconds long because breath is the instrument of poetry, because the air is the one thing we all share, because a virus has been stealing our breath, only some more than others. I am writing a poem that is 8 minutes and 46 seconds long because a white police officer sworn to serve and protect kneeled on the neck of you beautiful George Floyd while you cried, I can't breathe, until you couldn't breathe enough to form the words, until you no longer had breath, until death. But not just for you beautiful, for Brianna. Two, I will use my breath. I will not shut the fuck up, as one woman politely advised me after telling me that her little white boys matter just as much as anybody. Brianna, whose 27th birthday was celebrated on the streets after the police politely shot her 8 times while she slept in her bed, breathing. I am writing for beautiful Ahmad, who ran not from the police, but in celebration of breath, legs, lungs, heaving, working in a miraculous act of self-preservation, exercise, shot by a retired police officer who was not too tired to kill his neighbor to steal his breath. Breathe. That's right. While you still can, use whatever breath you have left to unsay 400 years of a law and order that looted first bodies, then babies, then lives. Now breathe. Say us into a new united state with tongues of fire if you must. Burn the blueprint of a new jail, a black top hat from which a white rabbit appears as a shadow black falls. And that was only 2 minutes. The rest is 6 minutes of silence and then infinite silence unless you beautiful speak up, and I will stitch you to me and me to you with hyphens that join, not subtract, beautiful. Unless we keep speaking up for justice, it is up to us, just us. Never stop, never stop.
In the lightning round, who's up next? I've forgotten.
That's you.
Oh man. Okay. That was a great poem. Okay. I'm going to go a different route. I was going to read something about current times, but I'm going to read something the opposite. And I wrote something just last week, and it's a fairy tale. So, doing different stuff. So, settle in, kids. It's story time. But I wanted to write a fairy tale about what happens after the end. So, it's called Fairy Tale Ending. And they lived happily ever after until the chickens disappeared. Blood-soaked feathers in the barnyard at the edge of the enchanted forest. Howls moaned low, harmony menace. The wolves sing together under the moon. Baked children into pies, seasons of crops decayed, mutilated carcasses and bizarre patterns under ancient cedar trees, chanting rituals under full moon, blacksmith transformed into a pig, princess abducted, nightmare fueled slumber for years, reign of terror. Still, there were those who loved the witch. Screamed in tongues until we cut hers out. Sound of 1,000 terrible things silenced at once. Flames consumed her body to charred bones. Black smoke blocked the sun, her final shadow. We danced all night around the bonfire, unaware of what lurked on the shadow's shores. Thick as fog, they rolled down the mountain. After raw meat, other offerings disappeared from the trees. Dismembered the prince, hunted down the hunters. Protective spell, some say, burned with her. Others say the wolves were lost without their twisted surrogate mother. She hunted and haunted the cursed forest. The wolves' shadows, large as trees, roamed the streets of our village. Nowhere was safe after the forest came for us. Sunrise is the children's favorite story. Colors they can't believe, birds they have never heard. They see only the roots, never the trees and the tunnels. Days fade away, we still survive. Wolves pace above the surface, forever search for what was stolen, devour us when they find us. Down with the worms and grime. Survival is worth a curved spine. The sun shined on us once upon a time. Thank you. I guess I'm past to Juliana.
Hi. Okay. Those are great. Thank you for reading. So I am going to conclude with a short little piece called Come and Gone. And yeah, I'll just launch into it. I think it'll be obvious that I really like goddess mythology. And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say. I've got 6 hours of driving ahead of me, but I'm taking it easy with an iced coffee between my thighs. Cars rush by like they've got somewhere to be right now. My little baby girl cries in the back seat, closing her eyes against the mid-morning sun. I pull over and adjust the sunshade, and soon after, she's cooing along with a singer on the radio, a husky-voiced woman with lots of rhythm and funk. Then little baby girl is out faster than you can say goodnight, her eyelashes leaving tiny feathery shadows behind. Because I have nothing but time and more time, I start thinking about all the spiritual voodoo I've been obsessing over for months. Reiki, shamans, even goddesses and tarot cards. And I'm going gooey inside, like s'mores after a good turn and a campfire. I'm all lit up with these thoughts. And for some reason, I'm envisioning myself naked in the middle of a pond, like Mary Magdalene herself. Serpents swimming toward me, slithery, silvery things that I'd be afraid of anywhere else. But in this vision, I'm curious, and they're all shimmer and sparkles, and the electricity goes up my spine like some sort of kundalini awakening. All at once, I'm ignited from root to crown, all my soft and hard spaces flowing like some ocean suspended in space. Little baby girl keeps snoring in the back, and the cars keep rushing by, while I lean into this moment like you'd lean into a delicious wind, your face and skin soaking up all the smoothness. The trip goes on this way, hours of stars gently exploding. Finally, we near home. Dusk is here, the sun lending us its light for just a few moments more, and little baby girl is awake now, her eyes wide as she takes in the green forest and violet sky. When I pull into my driveway, I stop the car and take little baby girl's hand in mine. She gurgles, smiling, gripping. I watch as the last trace of light fades from behind the trees, realize I shouldn't think about it when my own bliss will fade, but it's too late. The moment has come and gone, already a memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. I think so. The Dugan duo are going to close us out this evening for a final song. I want to take this opportunity, though, to thank everyone for Zooming with us tonight, and thanks to all of our Zoomers and Boomers and Gloomers and Doomers on Facebook, listening in on Facebook Live this evening. You are our audience, and we're glad that we can continue to be together apart. Again, the Writers Guild of Bloomington, check out our website for any updates on events. We'll be back with this event on Wednesday, July 1st, with another 3 readers and a musician. Joan wanted me to mention that if you do contact us and would like to get something, some of your work published in our newsletter, technically that does not count as publication. So if you still wanted to send that out for publication in a journal, what have you, that's perfectly fine, because it is not a publicly, it's only for Writers Guild members. So it's not publicly published, it's not widely distributed. We're probably up to around 400 members at this point. So thanks for listening, for everyone. Let's have a final song here from the Dugan duo.
Okay, a little song about kind of a virtual road trip. And some of the songs, some of the words are words from my father's mouth. Hopping motors, get in that big box. Let's go on a road trip, really rocks. Don't care much about where we go, it's just you. If I wanna get to know, it's just you, it's just you, it's just you. I really wanna get to know. It's just you, it's just you, it's just you. I really wanna get to know. We can talk life and death and our trivial pursuit. We can talk truth and beauty and sass and cute. It all flows like a free fall. We know that we can conquer it all. It's just you, it's just you, it's just you. I really wanna get to know. Oh yeah, it's just you, it's just you. I really wanna get to know. One on one, it's just us two. We can talk all those little things through. We can listen to music, dissect the news. We can laugh hard, or we can sing the blues. It's just you, it's just you, it's just you. I really wanna get to know. more time. Just you, get to know. Philly, New Haven, and Boston, Albany, New York, and Washington, Little Rock, Texarkana, Houston, Pensacola, Flagler, and Destin, South Bend, Terre Haute, and Bloomington, oh, diddly, 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 la, 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 la. Oh, yeah. Diddly, 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 la, 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 la. Oh, one more time. Diddly, 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 la, 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 la. A month on the road with a good college friend, you know we stayed that way to the end. Transition time is what we didn't need to get our brains back and up to speed. 10 years later and miles down the road, you know we still call each other up to unload. And now with our yearly migration west, you know, togetherness is the best. Just you, just you, just you, I really wanna get to know. Just you, just you, just you, I really wanna get to know. Just you, 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 diddly 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 la 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 la. Oh yeah. Diddly 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 la 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 la. Oh, one more time. Diddly 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 la 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 la. So hop on the motor tires, get in the big box, and go on a road trip. Really rocks. There you go. Have a happy trip home.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, folks. Once again, I want to thank everyone for everybody out there for joining us this evening. I also want to thank all of our performers, Jill Kelly Koren and Paul Kelly as the Dugan duo. Jill, of course, also read for us. Juliana Crespo and her flash fiction, Joseph Kerschbaum, I think has already left the building, but Joseph Kerschbaum for his wonderful poems as well. I think Joe put a link to his book here in the Zoom chat. Jill, feel free, or Juliana, if you have any books or anything, if you want to put a link in there, feel free. If not, no worries. If you're on social media, you can find these people. I'm sure if I can promote that people can seek you out and ask you for your merch. Maybe you'll sell it to them. I don't know, or you give it to them. Whatever, that's fine. No worries. But thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate your patronage of all the opportunities, of all the options available to you on this blustery evening. Thank you for choosing writing. I usually say poetry, but we have flash fiction tonight too. Poetry, music, and flash fiction. Thanks for being here, and we really appreciate it. I am going to now, through the magic of the internet, end our Facebook live stream.